You're listening to WDAP Radio.
Welcome to Pro Talk with the Mighty Oba with our special guest commentator, the insider himself, George the Radman Radney. How you doing, George?
Wonderful. Glad to be here. Hope all is well.
We've got a lot going on in sports as we get ready to preview Final Four weekend in the NFL. But before we go to that, man, there is some turmoil going on in Major League Baseball. George, you just want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, with the Houston Astros. Once again, I don't know what it is about the city of Houston. They have a lot of controversial things that take place down there. The Texans, and now with the Astros, their manager, or not their manager, but their bench coach at the time, Alex Cora, A.J. Hinch was the manager, and allegedly, the first thing, number one, why would Major League Baseball put the replay cameras in the dugout of the home teams? And then number two, why would it be on real time?
Right.
Why wouldn't you have it like 7 seconds or 10 seconds apart? So something like this couldn't happen if somebody thought about doing something like this. And I guess Alex Cora was sitting there looking at it and said, hey, we could do this, and got a few other people involved. But the thing about it is, all the players were involved because all of them were using it.
Right.
And so I guess Major League Baseball decided not to suspend the players and you could have suspended them 10 games each or 20 games each, but stagger it. Some of the guys won't start the season, other guys start. That's what, to me, they should have did for the Astros. They should have suspended the players as well as the manager. A.J. Hinch was suspended by Major League Baseball for a year, as well as the general manager, Lou Now, who I didn't like and didn't respect how he did with the women issue. And that's a whole other thing that happened earlier in the playoffs when the guy made the comment about the assistant general manager made the comment about the female, about the Cora, the pitcher, Azuna, the pitcher, and made comments about that. And that was a whole big uproar. But this one's even bigger. You got to get the owner comes out. He fires the general manager, fires the head coach, the coach. Which makes sense. A.J. Hinch is fired. But the thing what gets me, Mighty Oba, why would the coach, A.J. Hinch, who's in charge of the dugout, who's the boss and running, why would he let a bench coach do something that he realizes is illegal? He may at first say, well, yeah, let's try it. But then he said, wait a minute, man, I got a bad feeling. This isn't right, man. Why would he make this guy stop at all? Say, no, let's cut this off.
Right.
Why wouldn't he do that?
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
Not at all.
So either you were down with it too, and then the thing what really makes it very suspicious to me is Carlos Beltran was involved in it. They implicated him as well as Alex Cora.
Right.
Why would Alex Cora, being a bench coach, we never heard of him? Why would the Boston Red Sox hire him as their next manager?
Makes no sense.
And then now the Mets hire Carlos Beltran as their manager. And Beltran just retired. We know he doesn't have experience in managing. He obviously has experience in cheating.
Yeah.
So did you guys – it seems to me a lot more of these teams in Major League Baseball are involved in this. Because
Absolutely.
Why would you hire a guy? He said, hey, my system that I have – I can see Alex Cora talking to the Red Sox. Hey, my system, you see, we just won a World Series because of my system.
Right.
Now, if we implement my system here in Boston, hey, I think we can win a World Series here too. So Boston hires them. And this is all allegedly. This is all my thought process. And then now the Mets hire Carlos Beltran, who really shouldn't be a manager because he doesn't have the experience to be a Major League Baseball man. He never managed in the minor leagues. He never went through the ranks or nothing. And so this whole thing is very it's starting to really
the owners rippling effect throughout Major League Baseball when all's said and done.
And then you go back to that year, 2 years ago, when the Astros won the World Series. Back in September, Major League Baseball came out with a statement to all the teams saying, don't use the replay camera don't use it as an option to cheat or to see pitches, to do anything illegal that could alter ball games. So for Major League Baseball to make that announcement in September before you get to the playoffs tells me that they knew something was going on.
Definitely.
The word had got around that teams were using the replay machine. But why wouldn't you just change it? Major League Baseball, all you had to do was just make it a 10-second delay.
Well, we're going to see how that comes out. It's going to be a pretty big story as it unfolds. It already is. But it's going to be interesting to see how far this cheating scandal goes throughout Major League Baseball, and how is Major League Baseball now going to try to clean up its act. It dealt with the steroids era and some other things, but this is pretty big when you catch coaches and managers cheating off replay.
Yeah.
This is Bill Belichick in Major League.
Right, in Major League Baseball. And then, of course, he goes to Boston. Oh, yeah, you cheat. Yeah, come on up. They open him with open arms and welcome Alex Cora to Boston. I mean, come on, you like a guy like this. Man. Wait a minute, you got a system? Wait a minute, what is that? Wait a minute, what is it? Oh, come on, man. Yeah, because I was wondering, I said, who is Alex Cora? I remember when he first got the job. I was like, man, I never even heard of this cat. And he was and then I found out he was a bench coach.
Oh, boy.
He wasn't even making decisions.
Right.
So how are you going to – see, that's why it's man, this thing is getting really shaky. And for the Mets and Boston, both of those teams look very bad now. And the Mets, they desperate to win. They would use that system of how they worked it. And Major League Baseball, for you not to change the clock, the camera, and take it out of their dugout and make it like a 7-second delay is ridiculous to me. You're just asking for somebody to cheat.
Absolutely.
So this story is going to continue, and we're going to find out, like you just said, the ripple effect, and I'm sure it's going to be a much more and Altuve had a crazy season that year, too.
Right.
So you're really implicating a team that guys that if they were cheating, if they weren't, it kind of does look like they were cheating because those guys were hitting the ball like crazy that season, man. They were hitting Springer, George Springer, all of those guys. The other shortstop, I can't think. He had a big hit in the World Series there. I mean, still, you had to go 7 games to beat the Yankees and to beat the Dodgers, but still, you weren't doing it the right way, and I think that's going to always be a tainted mark on Houston, the Astros, unless they can come back and prove that, hey, they can win without any type of assistance. And Alex Cora, what do you think his penalty should be? Because he did it with 2 teams.
Hey, suspensions, forfeit of games, maybe forfeit of a World Series.
Do you think he should be blackballed?
Well,
does he deserve another job in Major League Baseball?
At this point, no. I mean, based on what we believe to be fact, no. If you're doing that, you have no business in athletics. You have no business in professional athletics or athletics, period, because you're disingenuous to the game itself, and he needs to be removed permanently. In my eyesight, it's only my eyesight.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that, but I agree. I think, especially after they told you before in September, before the World Series,
right?
And you did it. You won the World Series. Your team that you were on, the Astros, won the World Series. But then you had the audacity to go to a whole nother city, a whole nother team, and do the exact same thing. And I'm also wondering, Flyers, the gentleman the pitcher that told. I'm just wondering, will he ever get a job again in Major League Baseball?
We'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how this thing unfolds, and we're just going to have to keep our eye on that. Make sure you tune in to us at 105.5 FM Saturday morning at 7 a.m. We'll continue our discussion as this big-time controversy in Major League Baseball begins to unfold.
And we have Kim Davis from the Chalk Talk, Houston reporter who covers the Houston Astros and the Houston Texans as well. Yeah. She'll be scheduled to be on the show this coming Saturday morning as well.
Yeah, we'll get some information on that. And also, let's move to the NFL Hall of Fame. They announced their coaches, contributors, Jimmy Johnson, Bill Cowher. Any problem with that?
Bill Cowher, I don't know. I still kind of feel a little shaky about Cowher getting in there. Jimmy Johnson, the only reason why I feel a little suspect about him getting in there is that he had a great team. It was hard to if you didn't win a Super Bowl with the team that the Cowboys, and then again he helped assemble that team. So that was a great team. Of the two, he deserves a little more than I think Bill Cowher. I really, but if you really come push to shove, I don't think either one of them deserve to be in. And I think most of them are getting in because they're on TV. You get to hear them. You get to hear their ex-players like Troy Aikman talk about how great Jimmy Johnson was and how great so-and-so was and blah, blah, blah. And you don't hear about some of the other guys who unfortunately didn't get TV jobs and they're not on there. Like you mentioned someone like a Drew Pearson. That's a guy that should have been in there. He's a no-brainer.
Right.
Why isn't he in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, Drew Pearson was snubbed. Randy Gradishar and coaches from the category of coaching. I think Tom Flores deserved to be in there before Bill Cowher and Jimmy Johnson and our own Marv Levy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, Tom Flores should
This is a championship coach. He was a good coach at with the Raiders, and I think he deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. He should have been in there already. Also, I give you another one. A lot of people aren't talking about. Otis Taylor is not a Hall of Famer. Most people don't realize.
Really? He's not a Hall of Famer.
And the Kansas City Chiefs are playing this weekend. Puts more eyes on the team, but also some of the great players they had in the past. They had some of the great players of the late 60s and early 70s, and Otis Taylor was one of the best receivers of his day. He is not in the Hall of Fame.
That's unbelievable. Really.
Yeah.
I tell you what, people out there in TV land, please Google Otis Taylor, and hopefully they'll show some nice footage. They'll have footage back there in the late 60s and the early 70s. He was unstoppable. What was he, about 6'9", 6'8"?
No, that was somebody else.
6'6". No, Otis Taylor was a tall guy. He was big.
No, he was good size, but he wasn't that tall. Man. I was a Kansas City Chief fanatic.
Yeah, I liked him too.
He was good size, but he wasn't that tall. That's your Harold Carmichael type size.
Oh, Harold Carmichael. But
yeah,
Otis Taylor played big, though. Yeah. He played big, and he's also famous for a drop kick on Ben Davison. You remember that drop kick he put on Ben Davison? Man, that guy, Otis Taylor, did not play. He was a hard-nosed football player, and he should be recognized. And for them not to have recognized him,
I'm shocked he's not in. Back in the day, Kansas City Chiefs were my favorite team. Buck Buchanan, Willie Lanier, all those guys, Bobby Bell, some of the great, great teams of all time. Won a Super Bowl. They beat was supposed to be one of the best teams ever assembled, the Minnesota Vikings and the Purple People Eaters. They beat them in the Super Bowl in 1970. And I thought Otis Taylor was a sure-in for the Hall of Fame, and surprised that he is not in. Also, this week, organization that now George is a member of, the Pro Football Writers Association, they named their Offensive Rookie of the Year, which is Josh Jacobs. He had a great year, ended in injury. But I voted for Devin Singletary. And the reason I think that Devin Singletary of the Buffalo Bills did not win Rookie of the Year is because he didn't have enough touches. And that's on Brian Dable.
Yeah, Brian Dable. Exactly.
I don't understand it. He averaged 5.1 yards a carry. He was out, two games? With a hamstring injury. But other than that, he did not have enough touches.
And he didn't get enough touches, also not only Brian Gable, but the quarterback position.
Right.
If your quarterback can throw a simple screen pass, he would have been receiving a lot more touches. It was obvious Brian Dable did not trust him with the screens, because when Matt Barkley, as slow as Matt Barkley is, Matt Barkley did about 10 screen passes in the last game of the season against the New York Jets. So that tell you that Dable knows about the screens. He knows Singletary is good because he set it up for T.J. Yeldon on that particular day. So Singletary is just as good as Yeldon with screen passes. And I think your quarterback position has hurt the Bills' offense, and it definitely hurt Devin Singletary with his growth and his production this year. Because if they would have implemented the screen pass, and with a center like Morris who can get out there now, we got a center that can get out to the outside fast enough and can make some blocks. Come on, it's a shame.
Big plays.
Big play. When are the Bills going to do something about that quarterback position?
Well, they need to do something.
Yeah.
Because their quarterback, to me, is mediocre at best. People don't like us saying it, but the numbers are the numbers. I think he's got a good zeal for the game as far as his attitude, and he wants to play, but
culture. He got all that, but the boy just can't play.
He can't play. He has no accuracy in his throws, and
if you can't
he's hurting that team.
If you can't throw a simple screen pass or a simple out consistently, it's something wrong with you.
Right.
And there's something wrong with Josh Allen. He can't make those throws because of his footwork is so bad. And then what I didn't realize until we saw late in the season, and then the last time we saw Josh Allen was imploding down there in Houston, Texas, the man imploded on himself. He just blew himself up. I mean, his brain just blew up. He didn't know what to do. And that comes with coaching, too. The coach should have called timeout, taken him out the game, and put Matt Barkley in there just to calm and try to calm the young man down. Because you see, the young man was in no condition to play professional football. He doesn't know how to think. He can't read a defense. He didn't know. He saw the blitzers. He didn't know how to move the tight end over to the other side or the running back to hit the cover the blocker, to give him time to throw the ball. And then on top of it, he rolls out into the pressure.
Right.
The man rolls to the pressure. How can you roll to the pressure and you looking right at it and see where they blitz him from?
Right. Well, we'll be
Brutal,
talking
man.
about him
Brutal.
during the offseason. We need to move forward, though. No blacks hired in the NFL again as a head coach. We're going to have John Wooten on, the co-founder of the Fritz Pollard Alliance, and he was also the person that pushed him and the late attorney Johnny Cochran pushed for the Rooney Rule. We spoke with him on yesterday. He's going to come on with us next week on 105.5 FM, The Beat out of Rochester on Saturday morning at 7 a.m. We're going to talk about why black coaches are, again, being ignored by owners as far as head coaches and front office positions. So,
don't you think the excuse was it wasn't that many on the offensive side of the ball? Okay, it's not that many on the offensive, which is true. But number two, you got Eric Bieniemy, who's on one of the most potent offenses in the league.
Right.
And he's been in that position almost 5 years. He's working under one of the best, Andy Reid. You could not give him a –
a lot of people believe that that's hurting him, working under Andy Reid, because now they're saying Andy Reid is running the offense. And you see how they do Leslie Frazier. Leslie Frazier, 26-year man. If anything, he's the senior guy on defense. But if you hear him talk, they say Sean McDermott's running the defense.
Right.
That's not true.
No, it's
Leslie
not true.
Frazier is running the defense.
No.
So is it hurting Eric Bieniemy working under a offensive guy like Andy Reid when you're being considered for front office positions? Remember, Mike Pettin basically said he had to get away from Rex Ryan because people thought Rex Ryan was running the defense.
Right, he sure did.
And that's when he came. He basically came to Buffalo under Doug Marrone.
That's right, because he had to get away from him and let me coach the defense. He's doing an excellent job with because he's really a blitzing type guy too, and he's doing a great job with the Green Bay Packers this year. Everywhere he goes, he does a good job with the defense. I think you're right, but the only thing with the thing about Eric Bieniemy is he has to do the prep work. Andy Reid's not doing the prep work.
No, he's running the team.
He's running the team. He's prepping everything for the offense, and then Andy Reid comes in and tweaks it. But he knows the X's and O's. He knows what's going on. He knows how to put people in position to win.
And Andy Reid has said that.
Yeah.
Andy Reid says that this is a great, this guy needs to be a head coach right now. And you're seeing the same thing from Bruce Arians in Jacksonville. He's saying, hey, Byron Leftwich is going to be a head coach. This guy has made himself really a very good coordinator.
That's right.
And not Jacksonville, but Tampa Bay. I'm sorry. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He is the offensive coordinator there under Bruce Arians. He's done a pretty good job with Jameis Winston if he can get him to stop turning the ball.
Yeah, because that's not his fault on that. But he didn't get any interviews.
Right.
That
None.
we know of. He didn't get any interviews. So they didn't even have.
The only person of color hired this year was Ron Rivera.
Right.
And that's it. Blacks are not getting jobs.
No,
the last
they're not.
couple of years, and we're going to talk to John Wooten about that. We're about 1 week away from our wall-to-wall coverage at the Super Bowl. We're going to have some great people. The stars of Maverick, Monica Barbero and Glenn Powell are coming on with us on January the 31st.
That's right.
Make sure you just tune in to all of our partners, and we'll make sure that you know what's going on at the Super Bowl from the beginning to the end.
And I believe that's the remake of Top Gun.
Yes, it's Top Gun Part
right?
2, really.
Part 2, yes. Part 2
it's called Top Gun The Maverick.
Oh, The Maverick.
Yeah.
Okay. No Tom Cruise in this one.
No, Tom is old.
Tom is old. Oh, he's a little too old. Oh, these are younger folks.
They brought in the young crew, and they're going to be with us. We're going to have several guests. Each year, it's just a surprise on how many people you interview down at the Super Bowl, and we need everybody to follow us the whole time. We're going to be there for 8 days, bringing you the best information the entire Super Bowl week. All right, let's get to it. Championship weekend. What do you think? Let's start with the AFC. Tennessee Titans, a surprising Tennessee Titans,
Yes.
people are saying. But we've always said this team is deeply physical. I thought they should have beaten the Buffalo Bills when we were down there.
They out-physical them that day. As a matter of fact, that's the game where Darrell Casey tried to rip the arm of
Cody
Ford out of the socket.
Yeah, he just had surgery today.
Yeah, to repair that from Darrell Casey, put that on him. And Darrell Casey is a guy, he's a one-man wrecking crew. Fletcher Cox, him and Fletcher Cox are two of the best in the game where you can't block them. You can put 2 men on them, and you still have trouble with them containing them in the hole because they're so big, they're massive, they're strong. And then he also has Leroy Simmons next to him too, the kid from Mississippi State. He's a big physical guy, number 98. You watch for number 98 and number 99 on Saturday. Watch them on defense and watch how the offensive line tries to double team them. And you'll see you can't go up the middle. That I thought Wink Martindale and those guys in the Ravens, their game plan was totally wrong. You don't run up the middle. You got to run to the outside against the Titans. And I think you're going to see KC going to the outside. You can't run up the middle. Those guys are too big, too strong. And you notice that's the first time I've ever seen Yanda, number 73. He was getting pushed back every play.
Right.
Man, he was all in
this
the back.
Is a perennial offensive lineman in this league, and he was getting beat down. They were really making it very difficult on Lamar Jackson, even though Lamar Jackson had an outstanding game.
Yes, he did.
His receivers did not have a good game. A lot of drops.
A lot of drops.
Yeah.
He still came up with over 300 yards passing, and he had over 100 yards rushing. First time ever in the history of an NFL playoff game that a quarterback threw for over 300 yards and ran for over 100 yards. So he was really, even though they
he
said
did what he was supposed to.
He did. He held up his end of the bargain. The defense just couldn't, on that side of the ball, the linebackers, defensive end line, they could not contain Derrick Henry. And Derrick Henry, once he gets going, he's a load to bring down.
Man, that's a big guy. Over 245 pounds. He's a big guy, runs very physical. He was very dominating on that day, threw a touchdown pass also.
Yeah.
And the change with the Tennessee Titans came at the quarterback position.
Yes.
People don't realize that when they were a deeply physical team, they were beating up teams, they were missing field goals. Now that is a weakness they have, is at the kicker position. But the change at quarterback for them was an outstanding move by Vrabel when he went from Marcus Mariota to Tannehill. Their season changed.
Yeah, and he stopped turning the ball over.
Right.
That was the biggest objective, is the ball stopped being turned over. Marcus Mariota was turning the ball over. He turned it over in the Bills game a few times. They were costly. The Bills kicked field goals and were able to eke that game out due to the Titans missing field goals. And you got to remember, Tannehill last week was 7 of 14 for 88 yards. To me, that's Joe Ferguson numbers. Joe Ferguson of the Bills handed off to the legendary O.J. Simpson. Those are the kind of numbers Joe Ferguson used to pick up back in the day of the electric company and the juice. Tennessee is turned on with Derrick Henry. They handed him the ball. And they got Taylor Law. He's back. Remember, he was coming back from a suspension.
They got a dominant receiver that has emerged, too.
They still got Jack Conklin from Michigan State.
Excellent
he was all everything at Michigan State, the guard on the other side. So their line, they invested in drafting high quality guys on their offensive line. So watch out for this game. This
Who are you picking in this game?
Tennessee, unfortunately, going to get spread out on the defensive side, and Kansas City should win this by 10 points.
Kansas City by 10.
By 10.
All right, on the NFC side, this is an interesting game. Green Bay Packers against the upstart San Francisco 49ers. One person people are not talking about that we found out is that Martin Mayhew is a main cog in the development of this team, along with Jim Lynch. You were questioning Jim Lynch, but all of a sudden he hires a guy like Martin Mayhew, and you see who's really putting in the work on getting in the personnel, and they've done a pretty good job putting together that team.
They certainly have. They've done a hell of a job putting that team together. And the third factor, which I forgot to realize, I didn't know about Martin Mayhew until recently, but the other side of it is Kyle Shanahan invested in his father's zone blocking scheme.
Right.
And they're using that controversial zone blocking scheme where they take the legs out of the defensive players and run that ball on a zone read type system. Denver was very successful. Denver won 2 Super Bowls with that blocking scheme. 49ers this year, man, they look awesome. They look unstoppable with this blocking scheme. And their running back, the one Mozart, he's a special teamer.
Right.
He's not even the regular running back, and he's just breaking. Every time I see San Francisco, he's having big games in the backfield. And Tevin Coleman came over from the Falcons. Atlanta. We saw Tevin in the Super Bowl a few years ago when the Falcons went, and now he's looking very. He look like a totally different running back in this system.
The Green Bay Packers, strong team. Aaron Rodgers, Jamal Adams.
Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones. I was in Green Bay last year when Aaron Jones had his first touchdown. His first touchdown was against the Bills. His first NFL touchdown. This year he was one of the league leaders in touchdowns. I didn't realize that. They're quietly playing a very good game. Mike Pettin, defensive coordinator, got
big
those guys.
Big change for them on defense. Mike Pettin.
And the key players, Zadarius Smith, came over from the Ravens. So imagine if Zadarius Smith was still with the Ravens. Man, that guy would still be – the Ravens' defense would have been a lot stronger. But they really lost a lot in losing him. And he's made Green Bay very substantial, very real. And it's Green Bay is getting 7.5, which means the 49ers are favored by 7.5. I'm going with the Packers. I'm looking forward to a Green Bay, Kansas City Super Bowl.
Green Bay, Kansas City, and Super Bowl 54, according to the Radman.
But footnote, I've been wrong on the 49ers. I've only been right on the 49ers once all season.
Nobody picked the 49ers to be where they are. Nobody. Nobody picked them.
No.
But we'll see what happens. If you want to hear more about this, we're going to talk more about Championship Weekend on 105.5 FM this Saturday at 7 a.m. Make sure you tune in to us. And for the Radman and the Mighty Oba, we thank you. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and all of our mediums. We are going to be putting forth one of the best coverages in Super Bowl history. It is going to be a digital masterpiece. I'm the Mighty Oba here with the Radman here on Pro Talk. We'll see you next week. I'm the Mighty Oba.
WDAP Radio, Spreaker.com.